This is a Space Marine. There are a lot of Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000, you know, but I'm sure you all knew that. Now this Space Marine hails from an unknown chapter. I think it might even be what you call a homebrew. I've only ever homebrewed one chapter myself, and it's never really got past the design phase, but that's something to return to another day. The Marine is armed with a flamer of the hand variety. That's a flame pistol to you and me. They used to be a lot more popular back in the Rogue Trader and 2nd edition era. It would be nice to see them make more of a comeback these days. The Marine also has a banner pole with what at first glance appears to be the smallest banner ever, but I think it might just be the angles. If we could see it from the side, it might be a lot bigger. I want to see it. It might give us some clues about which chapter he comes from. Now, talking about clues, there appears to be a freehand logo of sorts on the Marine's right shoulder, but sadly we can't see that either. To my eyes it looks like Mr. Potato Head waving, but I'm pretty sure that's not what it is. I'm Marcel, and this is Snakeworks. So today we will be taking another stroll down memory lane at yet another Eavy Metal miniatures gallery. If you missed the first one of these, here's a link. So I know you're all fans of the Oldhammer persuasion, so this should be right up your alley. This time the miniatures in the gallery are from the early years of Warhammer 40,000 and some very early Golden Demon entries. Now sadly, regarding the Golden Demon entries, I don't know who painted any of the pieces apart from one of them, so if you notice a piece that you know who painted it, then please don't hesitate to jump into the comments and let us all know in the comments below. Let's jump in. I think that was a diving pose. So I think we can all agree this next piece is absolutely fantastic. Just look at it. It's a scratch-built vehicle. It's really nice. I love all the elements of it. The vehicle itself, the painting, and even the diorama scene. It's incredible. Now, the vehicle itself I think is a complete scratch build. I mean, it's possible it's based on a Rhino chassis, but I don't think it is. Maybe it's based on an old tank kit. The chapter that runs or owns this vehicle to me is unknown. I can't see any chapter or Legion insignia anywhere on the vehicle or even the Marines around it. But just as I took one last glance, I noticed a little emblem on the top turret there. It's red and hard to make out. I think it's a Blood Angels logo, or is that Dark Angels? This piece to me, with all the strange elements, sums up what Rogue Trader was all about. Unknown vehicles, chapters not wearing their proper schemes, and a nice dirty, dusty, weathered appearance. I think to get that, a lot of it was dry brush. This is an awesome window back into the early days of 40k. Now what I didn't mention just then was that one of these Space Marines, the Space Marine on the left, looks like he's taking a slash up against the signpost. Am I allowed to say slash? I'm not sure what the swearing filter thinks of that one. I'm not talking about the guitarist from Guns N' Roses. His hat's not as good as mine. Anyway, it might just be the angle of the photo, but I do wonder if that's intentional. What do you reckon? Well, unless he's standing in the corner like the chap at the end of the Blair Witch Project. I can't even remember why the guy was doing that. Was he waiting to die or something? Can anyone remember? That was a long time ago that movie came out. So you might recognise this next miniature. It's a Chaos Space Marine. We did a video on it a couple of years ago. My word, time flies, doesn't it? It seems like only yesterday. Now when we did that video, we were a little unsure as to which god this Marine belonged to. The armour, being green, gives you some Nurgle vibes off the bat, but he has a Khorne logo and Tzeentchian looking weapons. So what do you guys reckon? Now this Marine was also a model. Not a miniature model, we know he already is that, but the subject of a piece of art. He was on the cover of White Dwarf 99. It's a lovely piece of art, and I recommend getting a look at that if you get the chance. We might actually have done a read-through of that issue here on the channel. We love a bit of Oldhammer White Dwarf here at Snakeworks. What I always find myself looking at is the face in the belly. I do love random faces everywhere. Also, below the face is a Cadian Shock Trooper's water pouch. I bet you never noticed that before. It's probably not really one, but it sure looks like it. I touched on his organic weapons before, but I find they look so organic, they're almost Tyrannid looking. This was made before Tyrannids were a thing, so maybe they inspired themselves with that. Who knows? Now, regarding the organic look for Chaos Renegades, or more specifically, their weapons, that doesn't work with that angle, their weapons, I do wonder if they phased out that organic look to give to the Tyrannids later on. Here you go, you can have that aesthetic. We don't want it anymore. Because if they had have kept it, they might have looked a little similar in the theme department. Can anyone shed any light on that? Is my theory on the money? I myself have to admit I much prefer the older organic look to the Chaos Space Marines over the more contemporary normal looking Marines with just a little bit of brass trim and a spike. They look more to me like customised pieces of armour rather than someone who's been in the warp,
tainting away for hundreds of years, and this is tainting.
This next piece is an absolute stunner. It's a Rhino-based recovery vehicle kit bash. They did a lot of these kit bashes in the early days, you know. Now this particular piece I know was done by a man named Guy Carpenter. You might have seen another piece of his, one of the big scratch-built Titans that himself and Tony Cottrell made. They are great, go look them up. One day we should cover those. Let us know if you'd like to see them. I love the look of early Warhammer 40,000 vehicles. They're usually painted in that eye-catching dry-brushed manner, which is sadly frowned upon today. We need to bring it back. Let's make dry brushing on trend again, eh? Who's with me? The kit-bashed recovery device, I guess you could call it a crane, is really well made and has fantastic detailing. The real chain really sets it off. Moulded chains just give the look of toys, and I like to avoid those if I can. Whilst looking at this piece, I realised the front dozer blade is literally just the rear wing of some type of aircraft angled upwards. If there are any aircraft experts out there, and I know they exist, please tell us which plane it was from, and you can have 10 internet cookies. Now some people have pointed out, and I did wonder if anyone would ever notice, that I always seem to offer 10 internet cookies to anyone who gets the questions in the video right in the comments below. This is a fair concern, as I have to agree it is getting a little stale, like cookies do. So I might have to revert back to what we used as a fake currency in my youth. Polo holes. Do you even get polos in the United States, or is it just a UK thing? Americans, let us know in the comments below. I want you furiously typing away, giving us that information. So here's a picture of a knob, an orc knob. And knob is short for noble, apparently. And just like most things in life, you can't have a group of orcs without there always being a few knobs hanging around. So, this orc knob, I'm going to hazard a guess, comes from the Evil Sons clan, because he's a nice red colour. Now for some reason in my head, Evil Sons orcs should be orange, but I might have misremembered that. I'm not an orc expert, but I'm sure one will be along in the comments shortly to set the story straight. We're waiting! This knob was released as part of the RT-202 Orc Command set. This set was released just after the RTB-02 Space Orc Raiders box set. There were some officers and maybe musicians and boss pole banner bearer characters, I think. I haven't looked into those for a while. The knob appears to be equipped with a rather hefty power fist type weapon, known back then as a power glove. Not the Nintendo power glove of the same name, that's very different. His other weapon appears to me unidentifiable, but it's probably some sort of early bolter variant. I've never seen it before on an orc, and I've also not seen it since, but the orc has acne, or just some big pus-filled spots. The painter has done a cracking job on making those look real. They look just like the ones on my feet. Only joking. Aha! I actually think I have this miniature, hold on. Let me have a little look in my drawer of goodies. Here he is. He's blurry. He's a lovely metal miniature. I think he even had a name, although that escapes me. Grog or Grog, something like that, normally. He is going to be featuring in a video sooner or later though, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Everyone wants to see a video with a knob in, right? Now I'm not sure if this miniature is lead or not, so I'm not going to rub this knob for too long. Now back in the day, before I really knew what Warhammer 40,000 and Space Marines were, I used to read my friend's White Dwarf magazines, and I think the first chapter I ever saw were the Mentor Legion, and they have stuck with me ever since. I saw some sort of vertical diorama featuring the Mentor Legion, and I need to go and look that up now after this video. Anyway, I've always felt the Mentor Legion are a brilliant chapter and have sadly been watered down a lot since their creation. They had a lot of interesting fluff back in the day. What's fun about this miniature is the size of his head. It's bloody massive. He looks like Mr. Potato Head. Also, his eyes appear to be on the skew, which make him look a bit like Sloth from the Goonies.
Hey you guys!
He's armed with a massive power axe, which I wouldn't be surprised if it were a force axe, although that's more of a Grey Knight weapon, isn't it? Maybe he was testing the technology. That's what the Mentor Legion used to do, you know. Ah, the Mentor Legion, so dear to my heart. Does anyone out there paint or collect Mentor Legion? No? Well, they should. Back in the day, the Mentor Legion used to test out new Imperial equipment and then teach others how to use it, hence the name Mentor Legion. They're mentors. I guess maybe nowadays the Death Watch have sort of stolen that little theme with all the special new equipment. Are they the same, really? Also the OG Mentor Legion used to have an owl as their logo. So that's a cool logo because owls are cool. Woo! Oh, I can do this. Check that out. I used to be an owl once. Anyway, their owl logo is much better than the generic sparrow logo or whatever they have now. What is it supposed to be, a falcon? A hawk? We want that owl back, James Workshop. Do as we say. So sometimes you need something a little different, and this piece is that. A singing and dancing Eldar Dreadnought. Nowadays, they are known as Wraith Lords, probably to further differentiate them from the Imperial ones, but I like to still call them Dreadnoughts. You can probably tell, but there's a freehand painted face on this Dreadnought. Someone once told me it's supposed to be Fred Astaire, and they're probably right, but I don't know what he looks like, so it could be Ed Sheeran for all I know. Although I don't know why anyone would ever want a picture of him. The Dreadnought is equipped, and I use that term very lightly, with a cane and top hat ensemble. He looks very dapper in it. There's even coat tails on the back. Now that's some great work. Very different indeed, eh? What I would like to know is if this was a serious piece or not. Is it a joke because it's a bit spoofy? Was that the intention? I'm thinking it must have been for a joke, right? What would be awesome, however, would be seeing a whole Eldar, or Eldari if you're a youngster, a whole army in this theme. It's probably more of a Harlequin theme though, I would have thought. Tonight, I shall be dreaming of dancing Eldar Dreadnoughts. Ow! Michael Jackson wishes he was me. So what did you think of that, eh? Should I pursue my dream of becoming a professional dancer? Ow! Speaking of Eldar, we now have another one. This time it's more sensible and normal looking, if normal is a thing in Warhammer 40,000. This Eldar is wearing some lovely colours, a fantastic green and yellow combination which is very pleasing to my eyes. The scheme itself looks a lot like the striking scorpion aspect warrior scheme, which I think doesn't get invented, as it were, for another couple of years when the Eldar get their first big update. There appears to be a nipple of sorts on the top of his head, either that or some sort of infected growth. Maybe he's got Nurgle's rot. I mean, it's possible it's just a hat or part of his helmet. What do you guys think? I really like all the weird pipes coming out of the Eldar's head. It's not anywhere as clean or tidy as your more modern looking Eldar or Eldari, but maybe he could be from a different unit. What unit that would be, however, I have no idea. The Eldar is equipped with both a lovely sword that has a beautifully painted sheath and a gun that has a canister like my old Super Soaker 500. Now I need to tell you a little story about my Super Soaker. When I first purchased it, I spent the day at the end of our driveway perched on the fence, overlooking the local peasantry. Now, there was a young lad who lived next door who was a little, how shall we say, irritating. And he comes strolling past, giving it the big un with his big flapping gob.
You can never hit me with that water pistol from there.
He got a soaking the likes of which God has never seen. There's another reference for you. He underestimated the power of the Super Soaker, and sadly the next day I couldn't find it. The little swine had grasped me up. He had told his mum what had happened, who then told my mother, who then confiscated the gun. But he challenged me. I still don't think it was fair to have that taken off me. I wonder where it is now. Now, regarding water in water pistols, you don't want to fill it up with your paint water. I keep my paint water in this McDonald's cup. And interestingly, it says on the side here, if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Joseph. If you are enjoying the content here on the channel, then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below or up here somewhere. Now, this is incredible. I really like this. I think it was an entry to Golden Demon 1987 or 88. Actually, I think most of the pieces in this video were. If you know who painted any of them, then please let us know in the comments below. This time I think it's a complete scratch build. This is definitely not what we call an off-the-shelf kit. If you recognise any of the components in it, please let us know in the comments below so we could build our own. That tank turret has to be something recognisable. The ball-mounted minigun turret on the front, I think, is a complete scratch build though. It's brilliant. Also, looking at this, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was actually a fantasy miniature and not even for Warhammer 40,000, but I think that tank turret pushes it more into 40k territory. But there was an Imperial steam tank, right? Did that have a turret? Now I need to go and have a look. Judging by the style of the build, I think one could be forgiven for assuming it was for an Ork army, being a bit asymmetrical and shanty looking in places. There's a pilot in there, but I can't quite make him out. What are you, pilot? I'm a big fan of the army green, as Mrs. Snakeworks would call it. Is the correct term olive drab? I think that might be more brown. I'm no military modelling expert. Judging by the size of the pilot or gunner or rider, whatever his flavour is, the vehicle really looks rather big. I would love to see this thing in the flesh, as it were. Also, it has a base. Should vehicles be on bases? What do you guys think? If you want to see some more Oldhammer themed videos, and I know you do, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. As always, thank you very much for watching, and always remember to drill your barrels.